Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Going to talk more Return of the Jedi. I talked about it in my last video when I discussed the Ewok adventure for the Atari 2600, and it made me think, you know what, there's actually more to do with Return of the Jedi and Endor that I should probably discuss, and that is this, the Ewok Village. This is actually one that I got toward the end of my collecting phase. And this isn't a purchase or anything that I bought. This was actually given to me. There was a family that I used to babysit the kids for, and they were going through their old stuff and throwing away old bits and pieces. And they said, hey, you're into Star Wars. Do you want this Endor village, our Ewok village? And I said, well, I'm kind of at the stage where I'm not collecting anymore, but you know what? It's so huge. And you're just going to throw it in the bin? Yeah, sure, I'll take it. So I did. So this is what we've got here, the Ewok Village. Now, it's not the greatest, actually. Like, it sort of has, it looks nice when I've got it all assembled here. And I decided to bring in some leaves just to give it a little bit of context. But the playset itself is rather dull. Like, it doesn't look all that great. It's very bland looking pieces of plastic for the wood. They've done just a simple two-tone with regards to the little, what do you call these things? The little huts that the Ewoks themselves live in. There's actually a better one, and this is going to sound strange, but I also did just do a video about my kind of interest in the 1930s, and I talked about the Untouchables, and Kevin Costner came up in that discussion. There's actually a connection between this Ewok village and Kevin Costner, believe it or not. But we'll get there. I'm going to say that as a sort of a surprise toward the end. What else can I say about this set? Like, it's very large, a foot and a half in height, I guess. But it's also extremely rickety. Now, I mean, these little platforms that go into place here, they really don't stay in very well, as evidenced by me just trying to yank on this thing. Hauling this thing around is not easy. You've got three tree bits. So, like, how do you carry this? For me to lift this down off my shelf, what it ended up doing was like a hand here and a hand here. And I lifted and prayed that last one in the back there was going to stay still. It did. But I can imagine for kids trying to, like, jump around with this thing, it's not really the greatest set as far as the design is concerned. I don't think they did a very good job here. It does have some interesting areas you can play in, so I'll show those off. And I'm not entirely sure if this one is in good condition or not. There's a very easy way to tell. Let's start off with that. This is a elevator or a lift thing that you can kind of send down on the ground. And then if they want Luke to join them, let's see if I can do this one-handed. There's a little peg for his foot. Okay, so that's him held in place with the foot. Now, this pulley system is actually done by turning the handle here. I'm going to give it a turn and see, obviously that's the idea. You bring Luke up that way. But collectors say that there's a little mechanism inside here that keeps this handle from kind of going loose. And if I let go, if it stays in place, it's in good condition. If it just unravels and he falls on the ground, it's in bad condition. Oh, hey, I've got a good one. Yeah, that's apparently an unusually... not rare, but it's an uncommon find that this pulley system is in place. There's, I guess, a little piece of plastic or a cog or something inside the plastic there that's holding that in place. So that's good. So that's, now Luke can get out of here and come and meet up with the Ewoks. If I can pull him out of there carefully. Yes, kicking it around. All right. So yeah, now Luke can join the Ewoks here. I'm also going to slightly tease something very significant about this guy. This is Lumat, one of the last of the Ewok figures that was released. I think maybe that was the last Star Wars figure I ever bought. I think that was the one that completed my collection. It may or may not be true. There's another Ewok that looks virtually identical to him, And I'll do a video someday seeing is in fact Lumat, my very last Ewok. But yeah, he's got a drum here so you can bang away and celebrate we are now part of the tribe, and that's all very cool. We've got a fireplace back there so we can actually roast Han. In fact, let's do that right now, shall we? All right, now if I wanted to recreate the scene of Han asking, what did he say? And it turns out he's going to be the first course in a meal in 3PO's honor, we can actually turn him on a spit and get him nicely cooked over the fire. Don't know if kids really get the humor of that, but remember, this is the 80s when we kind of saw the same thing in, Bugs Bunny cartoons. So that's a kind of a funny little bit of humor that I don't know if it would translate much to today's culture. But there we go. We can now have Han Solo on a stick. Speaking of C-3PO and the meal in his honor, they actually have the chair that you can lift him up on, have the Ewoks take him to the place of honor, and it's actually very well done. The little loops over the Ewok's shoulders there to hold him in place. If you actually take these guys out, of course I dropped them there, but if you do that, the chair actually has several little dots underneath there so that you can actually give it some stability. 3PO can continue to do his scenes from the chair and it won't like wobble over or anything like that. That's a pretty cool little feature. And I guess the other thing that the Ewoks thought in advance of was if anybody disagrees that C-3PO is the god, then you can just take one of those big rocks and knock the fella in the face, I suppose. Now, I've discussed how this tree has got the little pull wheel for the elevator. These other two trees do have some kind of neat features. So we've got 3PO has been brought to the village and we've cooked Han up on a spit, but luckily at the last minute Luke's force powers proved that these are more than just something to be eaten. So this last little house over here does have a neat little function. There's lots of room inside there. It's actually its own little play area. And if I rotate the village round, as you can make out, there's just enough room inside there for a variety of the Ewoks to have C-3PO tell them their story about all the exploits that the adventurers had, and that way they can welcome Han and the rest into the tribe, and we can even have Wicket hug Han's legs there. So it's a neat little, tiny little play area for stuff to go on. Lumat bangs the drums of victory. We now have a new member of the tribe. Meanwhile, Luke has been discussing with Princess Leia how he must go face Darth Vader alone. And I guess if he wants to beat a hasty retreat out of the Ewok village, he can just go into this hut, because it's actually got a little slide unit. And there he is. He's actually retrievable from inside the tree. He's made his way out, and now he can go and face Darth Vader alone. That's the Ewok village. Kind of cool. Lots of play options for kids. Different areas, things for them to check out. I'm missing, actually, there's a net that's supposed to be also included, I guess, for the rebels to be captured and then originally taken to the Ewok village, but very, very happy otherwise. I mean, again, for something that was a hand-me-down, the fact that this crank is working well, that's really awesome. And it's kind of cool. But again, it does have a rickety nature. Like, it's very cumbersome and difficult to deal with, and it's not the most aesthetically pleasing set. Now, I did mention there's actually a connection to this and Kevin Costner. What the heck am I talking about? Retroblasting, which is a great YouTube channel that I follow. I've mentioned them before. They do Star Wars toys. They do a whole bunch of other toys, including the fact that there was actually a toy line based on the Kevin Costner film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Believe it or not. And in the video where they discuss it, Michael from Retroblasting does show that the Ewok village from The Return of the Jedi, is actually a pale comparison to the one that came out for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. There's actually, and I have to say, I do kind of agree with him, There's actually foliage that they put on the top of the trees in the Robin Hood one. The color scheme is a lot nicer looking. In this video, I don't know if the kind of dark brown or the sort of average color of the brown that's being used on here and on the little platforms, it's pretty dull. Whereas with the Prince of Thieves one, it actually looks a heck of a lot nicer. Michael recommends, if you can get your hands on that one, it's actually a much better rendition of this toy. Now, he does also point out it's quite rare, so I guess be warned in advance if you intend to replace your Ewok village with the, I guess it's Sherwood Forest for Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. If that's your intention, be prepared to pay some extra money for it, because the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves toy line wasn't exactly lighting up the charts, so you can imagine they didn't sell a whole bunch of units, and so therefore it'll be quite a rare price tag. But there you go, there's my Kevin Costner connection to the Ewok village. There is the Ewok Village playset. It's pretty cool, especially since I got it as a hand-me-down. The Kevin Costner Prince of Thieves one, probably a heck of a lot better if you can get it. But you'll notice I'm doing this indoors, because if I tried to take this outside like I did with my ATST and try and recreate Endor out there, this thing is just, there's so many pieces and bits and it's all very wonky. It's not going to survive the trip outside. So I had to do this indoors, but I think I kind of covered the playset rather well. Had not intended to keep it, was just taking it because people were throwing it in the bin, but since it's actually in good nick and this little thing works and it's got everything except for that net, I'm pretty happy with it actually. Until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.